presentation list was
and other assistance, so that their preparations are not only recited.
On an historic occasion in Winnipeg, the head of the Board of Directors of Anishinaabe Child and Family Services described the foundation on which Anishinaabe is based.
In terms of these proceedings, Anishinaabe is committed to being part of a better future of our people. We believe in local decision-making and planning. We believe in culturally appropriate services. We believe in involvement and participation by elders. We believe in emphasis of services to families as opposed to intervention. We've tried to make changes with limited resources in terms of money and found that the human resources of our families and communities have become our true agents for change.
Later, Chief Ed Anderson talked about the pattern of events in the often tragic years before the birth of Anishinaabe Child and Family Services.
Rather than trying to retain the children within a reserve or children's relatives, the government simply took them out from the reserve, removed them from the reserve and adopted them out, and that was their way of solving the problem. And it doesn't work in our reserve. In many cases, we have viewed that as a genocide. There are many elderly people who are coming to us yet asking if we could locate their grandchildren.
Mrs. Bittern was one of those mothers who suffered the loss of her children. Through the efforts of ACFS, she and her husband were reunited with their twin daughters, who both live in Winnipeg now, 2 of the over 200 children that Anishinaabe has brought home in the last 6 years. In a get-together with one of the twins, Violet, and her son Justin, at the Anishinaabe Outreach Office in Winnipeg, they were joined by their son Adolph Bittern, who now works at the Outreach Office as a supervisor.
When my sisters were removed from my home, I was approximately 14 to 15 years old. And they went through the court system, and my twin sisters weren't returned to my parents. They were adopted out. We found out much later, twice. Both the adoptions broke down, I guess, due to marital problems because of the adopted parents. But one thing I could never understand is I come from a large family, and I was still I was a teenager myself, and there were at least 5 others, I believe, that were younger than me. They were all left at home, except for my twin sisters. So I've always, because of that, I've had a negative feeling towards the old children's aid system. Because to me, I've always felt that it was as though someone had placed an order in for native twins. But I remember when they came back, well, the whole family was excited. And my mother was just overwhelmed because she, I can't really explain how she felt, but I'm sure that she felt just wonderful because she'd lost her children and they were back, and she'd never given hope that she'd get them back.
For Indian people in the 9 communities served by Anishinaabe, Dakota Teepee, Dauphin River, Fairford, Fisher River, Jackhead, Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin, Little Saskatchewan, and Peguis, the changes that ACFS brought were profound. As a community-based, family-centered grassroots organization, native control was the key. But the first order of business was the return of the lost children to their own families and to stop it from happening again once and for all.
The first issue that was our priority as a young administration was to keep our children within our families, within our clans, and within our communities. So we put into place a master child welfare agreement between Canada, Manitoba, and Indian governments. This was the first agreement of its kind across Canada. One of the things that I can recall vividly as part of our strategy was to ensure the legislator got involved here in the province of Manitoba and stopped adoption outside of the province.
At the heart of Anishinaabe Child and Family Services is the local Child Care Committee. The strength of the local committees, whose members are drawn from the communities themselves and are on call 24 hours a day, is one of the unique features of ACFS and one of the reasons for its success. Over 70 band members sit on the 9 local child and family services committees and are directly involved in case planning and management. A council of elders mediates and conciliates sensitive situations when called upon, and a regional management committee reports to the board of directors and carries out their policies and directions. In this way, accountability is first to the community and the people for whom the services are intended. That, plus the fact that the board of directors is made up entirely of the elected chiefs of each band, combine to make ACFS truly unique among Indian child care agencies across North America. As one of the coordinators of a major evaluation of ACFS's first 5 years, Carol Hurd emphasizes the importance of this uniqueness.
We went to each of the 8 reserves and talked to the people at the reserve community, not only the administrators of the program, but the recipients of the program. There was, I suppose, what you might call a sense of ownership now. There was a tremendous sense of pride, and there was a tremendous sense of enthusiasm about the fact that now, once in all of our history, have we basically the control of our own child welfare program. Anishinaabe, under the leadership of Robert Daniels, under the board, which is made up of the chiefs, I think we're determined to develop a really Indian model. And to the degree that they had to work under the legal mandate of the Child Care Act of Manitoba, they developed a uniquely Indian child care program. While they had to deal with problems of maintenance and apprehension, etc., or deal with those through the provincial arm, their immediate concern was prevention. Let's get into the communities and let's ask the questions and let's develop programs which can keep families together.
The community is benefiting by the services provided by ACFS versus Children's Aid, who worked off the reserve and just more or less communicated by phone or by whatever plans they had without, doing the initial work with the family.
And the people know where we're situated at, and they know where we live, and you might as well say we're on call 24 hours a day.
You are.
To find placement within your own community with extended family, I think that has really been an important facet of our agency.
And they're really doing a real tremendous work. I just can't believe how it works pretty smooth, And I don't see anybody being sarcastic or critical or anything like that. It seems to be everything's out moving in a positive movements, and constructive,
We've always believed that, the family is the basis of our strengths, and we want to go on from there.
With 2 regional offices in Pinamuta Place and Peguis, the east and west communities are closer to agency decision-making. The newly renovated child care facilities in Jackhead continue the decentralization process that was planned from the very beginning. Of the over 8,000 Interlake Indian people, approximately 40% live off the reserve, but they do not stop being families when they leave. To serve them since 1983, the Winnipeg Outreach Office has labored to follow and support families wherever they are. Adequate training of agency workers is essential. With the successful completion of a 4-year post-secondary educational program with the Saskatchewan Indian Federated College in 1987, Anishinaabe is embarking on new training initiatives to meet this urgent need.
And we want to take control of our own training programs right here at the local level, offer them in the same kind of setting as work 3 weeks, go to school for a week. I find that those weekly sessions are very beneficial to the trainees. If you're out there working in a stress-related job such as social work, It's good to get away from your job, mingle with your peers, discuss some of the cases, work out some of the cases. They're all similar in nature, and this has been very positive to us.
Agency staff frequently find that the effects of training go farther than simple learning of new techniques.
In the training programs in all areas of child and family services, it makes you do a lot of deep thinking because you have a lot of decisions to make, and being able to cope with those decisions. And there's crisis situations, but they're not as big as they were before. And the training is invaluable. It's pretty valuable to have, and it gives you a very positive approach, direct way of doing things. And without the training, I don't think that you have to make long-term decisions, and it's going to affect people for the rest of their lives.
I was more involved in the training of new Aboriginal soldiers that were working in the trenches and looking at different ways of treating certain things within the family, such as trying to treat abuse within the family as opposed to identifying who has the difficulty in removing them from family and never hoping to bring family together. I think a lot of the thinking that was done in a culturally appropriate manner. They developed services that were culturally appropriate, meaningful to their people, and services that would draw the attention of all community members. And if you attend their meetings, many band members are involved, so you can see that healing that within that sacred circle got bigger and bigger and bigger.
What challenges does the future hold for Anishinaabe? The strategies that ACFS has already developed have helped them to overcome many difficulties. Still, other obstacles remain.
I would say define the legislation base, because that's fundamental to your institutions, to your policies, to your programs, and your finances.
The bureaucrats, should realize that if they don't, fund our program that in turn supports the people, the Indian people that are experiencing a lot of problems, that they in turn will end up supporting those Indian people who are experiencing problems in one way or the other, whether it be through the courts and in the jails, whether it be paying maintenance because we've had to apprehend the children, and there's enormous court fees that's involved with that.
Ironically, one of Anishinaabe's strangest obstacles may be created by too much success.
Out there, the bureaucrats must think that we are moving too fast. Hey, let's, put a hold on these people, hold them back a bit. We're using the other provinces or the other bands from the other provinces to hold us back.
But with each success, the reputation of Anishinaabe continues to reach farther and farther beyond the boundaries of the home communities.
Well, I've heard some good comments from the outside as well as the people that we serve, and one impression that exists is that the people that work in our agency are very aggressive and I guess very protective and possessive of our agency, and I think that speaks very well of their commitment and their sincerity in serving their people.
I've been employed for this agency for over 5 years, and I've attended a number of conferences and workshops, and Anishinaabe is further advanced in its structure, in its philosophy, in its goals, and in its objectives, and I think it's achieved a lot of its goals and a lot of its objectives.
We haven't been defeated. I'm willing to go all out, get some more people, educated in the communities, try to educate the community and try to educate myself as well and keep going back to the elders.
To go back to the community, to address your community needs, to identify those needs and to document them. And you can best address them when you do that. It has to come from there.
guess the most important thing is having control over our lives in Child and Family Services. We could set out the goals, we set out map out the programs in terms of prevention. We try to set up a lot of prevention programs in the school and in the community and with the people. You're always thinking ahead when you're working in Child and Family Services. You're thinking 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. How could you make the community more better, effective, and for the children a safer environment? What we have learned today we'll pass on to the children and will provide a safer, more positive, enriched family life home.
Our families will always be our foundation for strength and unity, and our children, our sacred trust.